Hey, yes, snacks, welcome back. Today's video is a collage of today I fricked ups and many other stories of nightmare situations. Beginning with this revelation, today I screwed up by Googling my church. So I am a young woman that is still dependent on my parents to provide for me. Yes, I am old enough to be on this website. I grew up religious, but as I aged, I started questioning my faith due to the unrelated factors and trauma. I was also questioning my sexuality, which caused significant issues with faith and family, as I am forced to keep all of this a secret from them due to their political and religious extremist beliefs. This, however, is not where the issue lies. So, my screw-up. I was discussing some of my issues to my friend online, an online mutual friend from someone I know in real life, talking mostly about what I already mentioned. Curious, he asked me more about the church I grew up in and am still stuck being a part of. Being lazy, I thought, why not send the Wikipedia page on it? This way, it won't be extremely filtered, a biased description of the church itself. So, I sent it, and realized there was a tab dedicated to controversy. Now, I have a problem that I am aware of. Hyper-research. I knew I shouldn't have clicked on it, but I did anyway. Now let me preface this by quickly saying I'm not really a conspiracy theorist. Yes, I find them interesting, but I don't legitimately believe in many conspiracies, if any. But what I saw was so bad because I knew it was possible. At first, there was the usual millions of dollars in assets and collateral being used, which, typical. But then I got to the real bulk. I should have stopped after the first example of people speaking out against the head powers of the church in the Far East, where the place is headquartered and showing up murdered or dead soon after, but I didn't. My real frick-up was continuing reading. There were so many people. If you've ever properly used Wikipedia, you should know there are links to where the information was collected, and I checked them out. I watched most of a documentary on this church, and I feel sick every time I think about it. Despite this, I kept looking at these things. 2 different ex-members were granted asylum in Canada based off of fear from the violence of current members. Now, while I'm not in the country that this all happened, I am still mortified at what I read and watched. I fricked up by continuing my research, and even though I still have to go to this place at least twice a week, or else I'll be kicked out when I have nowhere else to go and can't afford my own place. Yeah, not the best goss to find out about your church movement. Just a casual couple of cheeky murders. No big deal. Skimming through the comments though, seems the best course of action is just to get all your ducks in a row. Maybe seek out some possible women's shelter in the area you could, escape to. I mean, how comforting it is to know that your local community space is kind of run by people who are willing to kill if you go against their sayings. Yeah, you might want to clean your search history. Now, it turns out someone guessed correctly in the comments, which naturally irked me to look up their Wikipedia page myself. And they weren't kidding. There is a lot of controversies to go through. Suppressing critics, threatening the lives of people who weren't fully agreeing with the person in power at the time. This all seemed to happen mostly around 2015, where one person under witness protection was accusing them of coercion, harassment, threats, arbitrary detention, of which the church was able to take him away, mostly at gunpoint, because they argued that they were chasing after him due to a rape allegation against him. How convenient. It doesn't help, too, that the judge in this person's case happened to be very closely tied, literally a member of their church. And also conveniently, that person was eventually shot several times by an unidentified gunman as he was driving by. And then there's a whole other paragraph on abductions and murders too, like my goodness. Then in 2018, when a show called The Fifth Estate did a little episode about the Church of Secrets, following the story of a widow of a murder victim allegedly killed by INC members after a series of verbal altercations. The news crew even tried to attempt to interview some of the people in the church, of which during their attempts to land the interview, their vehicle's tires were slashed. So, that's fun. Today, I screwed up by pretending to be mute on an airplane. This happened a while ago, but I still cringe when I think about it. I hopped on a short flight from Dallas to San Antonio to visit my brother. I ended up on an aisle seat towards the very back of a packed plane. As I sat, the guy next seated to me was busy and decided not to bug him with the quick hello or the classic business or pleasure question that people tend to ask. About 15 minutes into the flight, I began to eat one of those very dry Biscoff crackers. Without water on hand, I realized I overcommitted my salivary gland for some real work. Of course, at this exact moment, my seatmate begins his opening introduction. I nod to him and smile, but I was not about to open my mouth to pepper him with Biscoff cracker dust. Unaware of my dilemma, he asked me a question. I mentioned to my throat with my hand to suggest I was finishing a bite. His eyes go large, and he quickly apologizes and turns red in the face with embarrassment. I was surprised by his reaction and thought his response was a little over the top. A few seconds later, I realized that he thought I was motioning that I could not speak. No problem. I would clarify everything as soon as I could swallow my cracker. Unfortunately, this cracker must have been made from some properties that send all moisture to another dimension. As I waited, the stewardess came to save the day with a drink cart. She asked me what I wanted to drink. I just pointed at a Sprite can. As I did this, my seatmate clarified my choice by verbally telling the stewardess my selection. I could tell that he felt a sense of accomplishment that he was able to help me communicate given my perceived disability. Maybe it made him feel better after having asked me a question that I was unable to answer. As the flight continued, I realized that I accidentally committed myself to becoming mute. I was at the point of no return, so I figured I would just go with it. I didn't want to make him feel stupid. He began to tell me a couple things about his family. He mentioned a relative with a similar impairment following a stroke. He also showed me a picture of his dog on his phone. He knew I could not respond, so he never asked me any questions. I just nodded and smiled at anything he said to be polite, not uttering a sound. Okay, I understand this guy's motivation not to speak now. Part of my brain this entire time has just been like, dude, just confess. But no, by playing up the muteness, he doesn't have to bother talking himself. It's great, what a win. Eventually, our plane lands. Now by this time, I forgot about my act. I sat patiently as people began to deplane. Being at the very back of the plane, I knew I had to wait, so I remained seated. My phone vibrates. I see that it is my brother calling me. I accept the call and enthusiastically say, "What's up? I just landed. Give me about 10 minutes and I will meet you out front." My memory sends me a notice a little too late to remind me that I am supposed to be playing the role of a mute person on this plane. I slowly look over to me seatmate to see if he really even noticed. His head was directly aimed at me. He had the most disgusted look on his face, like I punched a baby bunny. I began to turn red. I was so embarrassed that I couldn't think of anything to say to make the moment less awkward. A part of my brain that does not get outside much convinced me to get out of the plane quickly. I turned that thought into action, and I quickly got out of my chair and grabbed my backpack. I looked back at the guy, and I can confirm that he was more committed to maintaining his disgusted expression than I was at being mute. I quickly looked at the person in front of me standing in the aisle. I could go nowhere. I remained standing for about another eternity until the line started to ease up. I finally made my escape, but this moment still haunts me. You should have whipped out the sunglasses and white cane to disarm his staring. Oh, and here's another beautiful one of someone in their own youth. This was a fear of mine, and yet I did the same thing in my youth. Like in high school, 15 years ago, I was accused of staring at someone on a city bus when I was literally looking out the window. I was wearing sunglasses, so I, out of fear and mental illness, just blurted out I was blind. It made the person leave me alone, but my karma was the anxiety of getting caught lying about it. So I tried to act blind, and apparently, to me, part of that is never looking away from where I was staring and making sure I touched all the bars on my way out. Yep, that's a nice wall. That's a sturdy pole. Yep. And now for a man's prank that almost puts an airport in lockdown. Today I screwed up by treating my friend like her suitcase. So yesterday after work, something exciting happened. A friend of mine from way back who moved to the West Coast flew back east for Christmas, and I was the lucky one who got to pick her up from the airport. And by lucky, I mean nobody else wanted to do it and I didn't mind, so I was on airport duty. So I tracked the flight, waited in the cell phone lot, and then when she was ready to be picked up, I went around to arrivals for extraction. Her plane was delayed, so I had entirely too much time to think about funny things I could do on arrival. At most airports these days, or at least at the airport I frequent, there's usually a plethora of cops around. This was a factor I had not considered when I got a case of the clevers. So I find my friend, and she has her arms open for a big hug. Rather than hug her, I stooped down a bit and threw her over my shoulder in a fireman's carry and started then grabbing and talking to the monstrosity she calls a suitcase instead of her, asking the suitcase how the flight was, how her boyfriend back west is, and stuff like that. We make it back to my car, her shrieking and laughing the whole time, pounding on my back and screaming, "Put me down, you a-hole!" Which I ignored. I place the suitcase by the door and then roll my eyes. Dude, seriously? You need me to open the door? So I open the passenger door and heave the lazy suitcase in the passenger seat and then circle around the back with my shrieking and wiggling friend and pop the trunk open. My friend, realizing what I'm doing, shouts, "If you put me in the trunk, you are dead!" And immediately after that, there's that really loud and unnerving squealing sound a police car's loudspeaker makes when it turns on before I hear a very loud, "Put the woman on the ground and step away," with those instructions being repeated by very serious sounding voices behind me and the sound of footsteps approaching rapidly. We both freeze, and I put her gently on the ground and take 2 steps back, keeping my hands very far away from my body. As soon as there was separation between us, I was told to get on the ground and place my hands on my head, which I did very calmly and slowly, followed by instructions to not move. I had my fingers crossed in my head that my friend wasn't vindictive enough to feed into it, and thankfully enough, she had mercy this time. No, he wasn't kidnapping me. He's just an overgrown child who doesn't think things through. Yes, we arranged for him to pick me up and drive me home from the airport. He's just a dumbass. No, I am not under duress. I promise. He's just an idiot. I would like to go home now. Can we please leave? Yes, this is my parents' address. This is my cell phone number. Feel free to follow up in an hour. I'll be there. After a few minutes of conversation, I'm allowed to stand up and be given a lecture about how serious a kidnapping is taken at airports, and such matters aren't considered funny, which I soberly agreed with, swearing up and down that I hadn't even considered the kidnapping perspective and thought it would just be funny. Once the police withdrew, I put the suitcase in the trunk and let my friend get in, and we drove off, which led to a second lecture about how much of an idiot I can be, which I agreed with wholeheartedly. I'm sure she's going to get revenge somehow. As someone in the comments lightfully lectures as well, there comes a time in a young man's life when they realize childish antics can be fun, but you have to temper them with age. To which the OP responds with their young age, 35. Yes, it's still young. So this screw up was just 5 days ago. And by the sounds of this being a new update here, it seems like that the friend has gotten their revenge. Hello again! A bunch of people from my previous post wanted to know how my friend, who was carried around like luggage, was going to get revenge. I just found out how. Turns out she plays dirty. The previous time she decided she needed payback was when we went to Taco Bell. She got to the bathroom first and stole all the toilet paper. Then she made me sing a song before she'd give any back. This time she's managed to outdo herself. When I was a much younger OP, I went to a summer camp. At said summer camp, they offered horse riding lessons. Naturally, I was curious and gave it a whirl. I wound up with a skittish horse who decided trotting was for sissies and went from walking to immediately a canter. A canter is when it's most difficult to ride a horse, of which they scratch that out and say, was way too fast for my liking. It's likely someone in the comments has accurately corrected them that a canter is not the fastest. That would be a gallop, you silly goose. I think I was 13 at the time. I wound up falling off the horse and fell directly onto a fence, with my head making solid contact with a post. My helmet did its job and broke, rather than my skull taking the impact. My boxers, however, were not recoverable. I did not get back on that particular horse that particular day as I was concussed, and concussed teenagers aren't supposed to get back on horses. Now this led me up until now having a very healthy respect for horses, because I can't admit I'm scared of anything or my man card gets taken away. Now my friend, the lovely human being and dedicated horse girl that she is, decided it's been long enough and I just need to get back into it. Little did I know, she had a plan. Friend and I go to the stable she used to hang out at a lot and introduced me to some of the people there. The bastards. Explained my dilemma and my very healthy respect for horses, and all of the horsefolk put their heads together and landed on a particular horse. They put me on a huge horse named Scooby. I was even told what all the fancy straps and stuff are and what they're for. I absorbed none of the information due to the very healthy respect I was feeling, which really didn't matter because this was a one-time thing and I was going to go back to letting the horsefolk do their thing while I played with animals who don't come in Costco sizes. Scooby and me got along just fine, up to and including the mounting process. I mean, heck, even the ride was kind of fun. Terrifying, but I didn't have a bad time, mostly because Scooby is also the noob horse, perpetually unruffled. He just does his thing no matter what the idiot on his back does. What all of the staff and my friend had neglected to mention was the most important part of the horseback riding, getting off the horse. Me and Scooby were just moseying about while other people and horses did their thing. And it was all good. I was even having fun. Right around when places I didn't even know I had started protesting, I realized something very important. I wanted down, and everyone had disappeared. There was not a soul around, just me and Scooby. Scooby is tall. I've been had. I tried calling out for someone. Very funny. I want down now. Crickets. I figured folks were watching and would intervene if something horrible happened, but clearly the object lesson here is there's always a bigger fish or something along those lines. Time to take my medicine. So I did the best I could. I got one foot out of one stirrup and attempted to climb down. Horse is too tall for me to just step down. My foot is now stuck in the other stirrup while I'm holding the grippy part of the saddle trying to figure out what it is I'm doing. At this point, Scooby turns his enormous noggin to look at me like, what in the world are you doing and why did they let an idiot on board? As someone who's ridden horses for a lot of their younger life, I can absolutely visualize that horse's reaction. That is such a bloody thing they do. Like, I am trying, okay? Stop judging me! So I pull myself up using the grippy part of the saddle and free my other foot from the only stirrup keeping me up there, which means my feet had nothing to hold me up. The grippy part of the saddle didn't quite give me enough leverage to ease my way down, so I promptly fell into the surprisingly soft and cushiony ground. Scooby, being the good boy that he was, had time to check on me before the stable folk and my friend all appeared as if from nowhere, peeing themselves laughing. Yes, there is video. No, I am not sharing it. Note, I was assured after the fact at length that people were close enough to assist in the event I actually started freaking out or if something looked like it was going to hurt me or the horse. Now, the horse people have a very twisted sense of humor, and I was assured this was not the first time a small girl got revenge on a large guy in this fashion. I was also assured that this was out of concern for the horse. I was also casually informed about the correct method, which, as it turns out, involves removing both feet from the stirrups and then jumping down. And now for a screw up over an r/confessions. I scammed Temu, and now I lost $500,000. Okay, so I thought I was scamming Temu, but now I'm in debt. Not actually, but here's how the story went. I had like $1 in my account, and there was something I really wanted that was $1.89. So I thought, yeah, well, we'll just see what happens. So I bought it and looked at my account, and I still had $1 in my account. I was thinking, that's strange, but I didn't think anything of it. Fast forward, I get $10, so I do what any other irresponsible kid does. I spent it as soon as I got it. I bought the items, but I still had $11. So I'm thinking it's probably not going through. So I get the package, but check my account. There, staring right back at me, was the crisp digits of 11. So I'm thinking this is an absolute miracle. So I go ballistic, buying stuff I could never imagine affording. Electric guitar and other items. These packages are getting delivered, but my money stays. Then one day I go to school, absolutely bawling with my Temu accessories. My mom calls me in the middle of class. We just lost $500. I am absolutely pooping bricks. I am so scared. I tried canceling my cool orders, but nothing's working. I'm freaking out. My friends are laughing at me. My mom's screaming. It didn't take $500 from my account. It took it from my dearest mother's. When I got home that day, I was sworn never to see the light of day again. Moral of the story, don't try scamming Temu. Also, I'm sure anyone over the age of 20 can relate to this. Crisp digits of 11? Oh, to be young again. Today I screwed up allowing my friend to use my camera. My friend recently asked me if he could borrow my camera. Now, for the record, I'm employed as a camera operator at a media company, and I have my own camera. It's an expensive camera, so when my friend asked if he could use it, I was a little hesitant. My friend said his long-distance girlfriend was hopping on a plane to spend a few days with him and he wanted to film their time together. I asked my friend what was wrong with using his iPhone, and he said he wanted my camera because he was in love with the movie look of my videos. I tried to convince my friend that he didn't really need an expensive camera to make his shots look cinematic, but his mind was made up. He wanted my camera and he was willing to pay me for it. I allowed him to borrow my camera free of charge based on the agreement that he applied what I taught him about my camera. Autofocus is your ally. Play it safe. Stick to the basics. No need to go full-on Roger Deakins for picnics or long walks on the beach or anything like that. My friend returned my camera yesterday and said he was more than satisfied with the results. I inspected my camera for potential damage or changed settings when my friend was gone and realized he failed to format the card inside the camera. All the footage he shot was still on the card. Picnic with the girlfriend? Check. Long walk on the beach? Check. Glow in the dark mini golf? Check. Naked girlfriend in my friend's bathroom. Wait, what the hell? Boobs? Butthole? BJ? Oh, no, I didn't actually play any of the footage, thank God, but I was just scanning through the collection of thumbnails, which provided more than enough information that I will struggle to unsee for the rest of my life. My friend most likely forgot to erase the footage on the card when he was done saving. I do not want to assume I can wipe the card clean without confirmation, so at some point, I need to contact my friend and inform him that all his footage is still on the card before I can proceed to delete everything. I am not looking forward to that conversation because I know it's going to be awkward as hell. So yeah, better wipe that camera down with some alcohol wipes or something. And oh god, well, now you have a slideshow for his wedding. Someone even suggests a more psychopathic way of doing a wedding slideshow. So go get a new SD card, get yourself a new one, and keep that card safe. Maybe copy some of the tame stuff to a proper backup hard drive so it for sure lasts until the wedding. You don't even need to show any of the risque stuff at the wedding. The reaction of the couple recognizing the clean photos from that weekend will be priceless. Now, I would make a video showing each clip and stopping it just to talk about how it could have been improved. Now, the light here fails in this aspect. Now, this frame is poorly centered. A centered plane would have worked better here. Too much headroom. The focus on the nipple looks a bit soft. Too shaky. You're having smexy time, not chasing down Jason Bourne. Butthole, dead center in the view. Do you think you're Wes Anderson or something? Use the rule of thirds. I did. The butthole is a third of the image. Today I screwed up by going to see some Christmas lights. I, a 19-year-old male, planned a date with my girlfriend, 18, to go see Christmas lights show at a nearby neighborhood. I excitedly get ready for this date by getting a fresh fade, putting on a nice dress shirt and pants, putting on cologne, and even got her flowers, which she was super happy about. After picking my girlfriend up, we go to a gas station to fill up on gas before going to the light show. I ask her if she wants to go inside the store to get anything before we go, and she obliges, and we ended up buying an iced latte, important, which we shared together. We both drink out of it while I drive on the way to our destination. While waiting in a long line of cars to enter or drive through the lights show, I notice a slight urge to pee. My girlfriend asks if I can hold it, and for the time being, I could. As time goes on, however, I ever so increasingly feel the desperate urge to relieve myself. But not wanting to lose our spot in the long line of cars, I hold it in uncomfortably. An hour goes by and we enter the light show and my bladder feels like it is about to explode. My girlfriend notices, and I get the idea to pee in the iced latte cup that we shared. My girlfriend, grossed out by the idea, says she will look away and offered me a napkin as she does not want to ruin the romantic image she has of me. Hi, it's a natural bodily thing, okay? He shouldn't be ashamed. Hashtag pee is beautiful. I drive along the route, searching for a dark place to park so I can do my business. I find one, and begin to relieve myself in the 12-ounce cup while still in the driver's seat. The feeling is great after having held it in for so long. However, I began to notice that my Mr. Little Fella down there starts to feel real warm. I realize that my manhood is actually submerged in the pee at this point, and the pee in the cup begins overflowing onto the car seat. I realized that it was also leaking onto my hand as well, and in a panic, I throw the cup while in the car and it splashes all over me and my girlfriend in our nice, clean outfits. We spend the next 20 minutes cleaning ourselves with a single paper napkin before continuing with the light show. I'm never peeing again. My girlfriend surprisingly wasn't upset with me too much. I love her. Yeah, how much do you want to bet it was actually this case? She was super angry and upset at you, she just wasn't telling you. To which the OP responds that she actually replied by saying she said she isn't going to break up with me over something so small. Damn, kicking you while you're down. My man, if you can get a second date after that, you have yourself a wife. Today I screwed up by spreading misinformation to millions of people. I made a Quora when I was in high school back in like 2017. Now basically, all I would do was answer questions about mostly bugs with incorrect information because I was a bored high schooler. I pretended to be a biologist to get more credibility. I just opened it for the first time in years and it has millions of views on my answers. I am the top answer for a ton of questions, with some of my answers having hundreds of thousands of views. Like, I answered questions about wasps with blatantly incorrect information, and it is the most liked answer with 780,000 views. Hundreds of thousands of people have incorrect information on wasps because of me. Some of my answers were just obvious jokes, but some of them I made them seem really reliable and looked up actually biological information about bugs to give plausible reasons as to why my incorrect information was accurate. I have spread more information on bugs than most scientists will in their lifetime, and all of it is lies. What have I done? What you've done is assuredly turned Quora into the new Yahoo Answers, although instead of filled with stupid people, it's filled with, I guess, in this case, sociopaths? Joyfully gaslighting and misinforming the public. And as another commenter highlights, this is likely some information that ChatGPT itself will source because it's on something like Quora. Let this be a lesson to all of you. If you ever feel like you as an individual don't make a difference in this world, well, this person literally just spammed a bunch of BS on the internet and now they're influencing AI algorithms for years to come. So there you go. We all do our parts to make the world a far less trustworthy place. Now in the chat, OP references a meme from Arthur, which starts a discussion of people not remembering that specific voice being the same voice they grew up listening to which then there's a back and forth about the voices of it, all the different voice actors that had the role, to which OP has an interesting informative reason for this. Voices sounded more normal because as kids we also had squeaky voices. It's like when you go back somewhere and everything looks shorter. It's called the cognitive comparison effect. Oh, cool. Now, hang on. It's like you're all over again. You just can't help yourself. Arthur was voiced by different actors with different tones of voices. Some seasons were more high-pitched than others. Maybe they're remembering a different voice actor than the clip. Oh, I'm a PhD in psychology, specializing in cognitive biases. I would know. How can we trust you knowing what we now know? That's your cognitive bias speaking. Well, damn. I guess you would know. Wait a sec.